Okay, I think we're recording. I turned this on and Zoom had updates to do, and I couldn't find the record button. But here we are.
There we are.
And as you can see, I am live and in person with Amanda Cox. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, thanks so much for meeting with me to
Yeah.
talk about this
And
new
you can
book.
see behind us, we're in fabulous Chattanooga, Tennessee. Amanda lives here in the Chattanooga area. I grew up in this area. And so we come back here yearly at least to visit family. So I connected with Amanda. We've done this before where we met in person. So I said, I'm going to be there around July 4th time. Let's do it again. So we're going to be talking about Amanda's new book today, Between the Sound and Sea. Before we get into that, I'm going to let Amanda introduce herself to you, tell a little bit about her family for those who have been under a rock and don't know Amanda in the Christian fiction world. Go ahead.
So Chattanooga is my hometown, as where I've born and raised, met my husband in high school, and really love this area. I have 3 kids, and so when I'm not writing, I'm homeschooling them, and so it's always an adventure, and I always feel like I'm learning more than they are about anything that is going on. And so like to travel, go fun places with the family, see everything there is to see, but I'm a really big homebody and I always find myself back in Chattanooga as soon as possible.
Yes.
And so when I'm not writing and homeschooling and traveling, I like to keep bees and fail at gardening. And yeah.
What kind of garden do you have?
Well, I've got some wildflowers, and then I've got some like a pollinator friendly area, and then I've got a few vegetables which are doing terrible this year.
Oh,
But
really?
to be fair, I've been a little more focused on writing than gardening, so
Yeah.
it happens at my house anyways.
Yeah. So Amanda and I got to connect also with each other the end of May. I went to the Blue Ridge Christian Writers Conference in the Asheville, North Carolina area. And Amanda was on the last leg of a book tour that she had been doing. And so we got to meet up and have dinner together one night. Tell a little bit about your travels with your book tour. You were promoting the bees, right?
Right. I was promoting He Should Have Told the Bee. So it was really funny because, at least it was funny to me, a library that's on the coast of North Carolina contacted me to come and talk about He Should Have Told the Bees. And I'm like, well, I can. I have a new book that's coming out, in a few months that's actually set here, but that's, well, we need somebody now. So I was like, okay, great, I'll come. And so I was kind of touring all over some different areas in on the coast of North Carolina, getting to stop at some different libraries and bookstores and things like that and talk about bees. And then also give them a little sneak peek of Between the Sound and Sea, which is actually set in the area that I was adventuring in.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that's kind of somehow our paths seem to cross with different areas. So she was in the Outer Banks area, which is only hour and 15 minutes from where I live in Southeast Virginia. And so it's kind of cool. And I got to read her new book, Between the Sound and Sea, ahead of time. I got an advanced reader copy. And it's so fun to read books set in locations that you're familiar with, places, oh, I've been there, and, talking about the lighthouses and everything. So that's a lot of fun. Talk a little bit about what inspired you to write Between the Sound and Sea.
So there are a couple of different things that kind of came into play when I was coming up with this story idea. I have this file on my computer that is just like a little snippet of possible story ideas that pop into my head. It might not be time to write that story yet, but I'll see something like, oh, that could be an interesting story. And several years back, I'd read an article about some World War II history on the coast of North Carolina. And it just struck me because growing up in school, I never learned about that at all. I had no idea that U-boats were bombing supply ships 7 miles from the coast.
Wow.
I hear about Pearl Harbor and things like that. But it was never something that felt like it was like that close to like the Eastern coast. And so I was like, that is just fascinating part of history that I didn't know much about. So that was kind of like tucked back in there. All of my books before this one had been set in Tennessee, and I was kind of wanting to set a book somewhere else. And the Outer Banks is a place I always wanted to go. And so I was
research.
I was like, husband, do you want to go on an anniversary trip to the Outer Banks and go and look at a bunch of lighthouses? And so it was like a great excuse to go somewhere I always wanted to go. pull in some of that it's a contemporary story, but it like pulls in a little bit of that World War II history. And there's something just really special about lighthouses.
Yeah.
So I had fun
Yeah.
researching about what it was like to be a lightkeeper, and what the climate was like in that area as far as people seeing boats torpedoed off the coast and it being kept so secret that the rest of the country knew very little about it. So
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking when I post this, we're recording this ahead of time. We're actually July 3rd right now, and this will not post till August, so about a month away. And the book releases August 6th.
yes.
So I was just thinking of maybe on the post, putting some of the pictures that you took in the Outer Banks. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so maybe I can get some pictures from Amanda, and down below the video, post some of those for you to look at of her research trip.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
It was so much fun taking like everything that I saw and putting it into story form over that next year. So it's kind of like I had a vacation and I got to take that vacation the whole rest of the year.
That's fun. And then you got to go back
Yeah.
after you'd written the book and were done, and you went back again.
Yeah.
So was it different that time after writing the book? Did you have different?
Yeah, it was the second trip was a little bit different. The first one we actually went in a hurricane.
Oh my God.
It was a lot different. I am the cautious one. We were like, okay, so we're halfway on our trip. We're in Asheville, and this hurricane that was supposed to hit Florida and stay in the Gulf actually skipped over Florida and went up the coast. And so we're like at this point of no return. And my husband's like, do we go? Do we not go? And I'm like, let's go back home. And he's like, no, let's do it. And I'm like, do you understand what the Outer Banks are? They're like a strip of sand between two large.
You do not want to be there during a hurricane.
We just got the outer band, so it wasn't that like we were in a major storm, but still, I'm not accustomed to hurricanes, so I didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. So the next time we went, we were not in a hurricane, and I had my kids with us on that trip, and so I got to let them see some of the area, and I was able to spend more time in Ocracoke, whereas before it was sort of a day trip there and back, but we actually got to stay on the island.
Nice.
And my daughter was like in love with it. She's like, Mom, I want to move here.
Yeah, it's
unique.
Beautiful. It is. It's very unique down there. It's a nice place. So tell a little bit about the story. I'm going to let you tell so I don't ruin anything, because I have read the book. I'm going to try not to give any spoilers at all.
All right. So it's a book about a young woman named Joey, whose life has been a little bit turned topsy-turvy because of this small town scandal that her family has kind of gotten mixed up in. And tries she has to kind of separate herself from like all the misunderstandings that the people in that area have. They're still kind of blaming her and her family for things that have gone wrong, and it's impacting her business and just her life there. And her family has actually, a lot of them have moved away because of like the ongoing strain. But she's still there trying to like hold on to this life that she's had. But she's kind of at the end of her rope, and her friend kind of comes up with this crazy idea. Hey, why don't you take this temporary position to oversee this project where this decommissioned lighthouse, a private person has bought it and they're wanting to restore it, and they're looking for a project manager. And her dad was in construction, so she grew up in that industry her entire life, very familiar with project management. She's like, that's great. I can go for a few months, get away, and then I can reevaluate what it is I'm really doing with my life in this small town where everybody hates me. So she takes the trip, and she arrives, and she sort of falls in instant adoration with this elderly man named Walt, who has purchased this lighthouse and is desperate to restore this lighthouse. And at first, she's not really sure what his connection is, why he is so devoted to this, but she begins to realize that the last lightkeeper and his daughter, that daughter was a dear friend of his, and they parted on not very great terms, and he has a lot of regrets. So restoring this lighthouse is a way for him to kind of try and make up for some things that he feels a lot of regrets for. And then as she's working on it, on the lighthouse, she finds these notes from the 1940s that are in the walls of this lighthouse. And it has the name of the lightkeeper on the lightkeeper log, and it's a female. And so she's like, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to go and research that. And she couldn't find anybody by that name. So in this process, she's restoring this lighthouse. She's also trying to figure out what really happened to the last lightkeeper and his daughter, because there's a lot of, folklore and stories, a
Mhm.
lot of loose ends that Walt is kind of still trying to contend with. Not only did he lose that friend, he doesn't really know what happened. And so she thinks maybe if I can solve this, then it'll bring him some closure. And then she's also trying to figure out who in the world this female lightkeeper, who with this hidden identity with notes stuck in the walls, why is there and who put it there and how is it all
Mhm.
connected, or is it even connected?
Mhm. So there's a lot of mystery
Little mystery.
involved and a
Yeah.
little bit of relationship that you don't have in some of your other books
Yeah,
going on.
there's a little bit of romance in the story. It's a contemporary story, but it's reflecting back to some romance that or wanted romance in the past,
Mhm.
and that's not quite reciprocated, as well as Joey in the present day and some of the other characters in the book. So
Mhm.
it was really fun exploring those relationships. And Joey's like, I would say what she's looking for, she's trying to figure out in the midst of all the other things that she's doing, she's trying to figure out what it is that she really cares about and what really she really values, because she has these things from the past that she's been holding on to as hard as she can. And she's trying to figure out, okay, do I keep holding on to the way I think life should have gone, or how I wished it had gone, or how do I find a way to kind of move forward and maybe take some chances?
Mhm. I think a lot of people can really relate to that in a lot of ways. I'm sure we all have regrets of some kind in our lives. And we come to a place where, like Walt, we're like, okay, how can I try to make amends somehow or, bring some closure to that?
Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff. What about the characters? What inspired your characters? What can you tell us about the characters? Um, Maybe some of their backstory or what they're struggling with. Can you elaborate a
Sure.
little bit?
So I had a lot of fun writing Walt's character. He's, like I said, he's 81 years old. He was married for 60 some odd years. His wife has passed away, and now he's always been like this really solid, sturdy person. But now he's using all of his life savings to restore this lighthouse, and he's living on a sailboat, much to his grandson's, well, he's not happy. Let's just say his grandson Finn is not happy with his grandfather's sudden change in how he is doing life, and he's really worried about him. But um so Walt is like kind of like this lovable, crusty guy who like lives on his sailboat. And he was a little bit inspired because my husband has a marina that is in Sail Creek, and there's a man that is there who lives alone on his sailboat. And so when I met him, I was like, Walt is gonna have it. Like I was writing this
Yeah.
story, I'm like, Walt is gonna have a sailboat. He's gonna live on the sailboat.
Oh, that's cool.
And so Walt, his entire life, raised his grandson Finn. And they have a very, very close relationship. They've always been very connected. And now Finn is really kind of freaking out that Walt is doing all these things. He's like, is he okay? Like, is he mentally, coping well with the loss of his wife? Like, what's really going on? Which kind of turns Finn into a little bit of an overbearing pain in the process of this restoration project. And so Finn himself is another character that kind of has some of his own regrets and things in life. And so he's kind of, his way of coping with his regrets is to be kind of controlling. Like he tries to control his life. He tries to live very regimented and very scheduled. And Walt's choices definitely kind of butt up against that. And so, anytime you have characters who are kind of reacting more out of fear than out of love and caring and compassion and understanding, it kind of makes for some interesting dynamics between those characters. But there's also the love is still evident as well. But I really had fun writing the banter that kind of occurs between them, because, Finn kind of like pushes back and Walt is very ready to kind of push right back with him. So a lot of fun with the dynamics between those two characters and how that relationship develops over the course of the book. And Joey plays an instrumental part in both of them. She kind of functions as a sort of mediator between these two in a sense, to be kind of like, oh, well, have you actually really listened to, your grandson or your grandfather? Like, what's really going on here? And so it was fun to kind of let her be a little bit of a peacemaker mediator in that situation as the story kind of unfolds. But she's definitely on Walt's side.
Now there was it's a teenage boy
Yeah.
character. Can you tell us anything about him?
So he is kind of a character that comes into play a little bit later on into the book. And again, it's another character who has, I don't know if regrets would be necessarily the word for him, but he mirrors Joey in a lot of sense because there was a life that he had that he loved, that he lost, and he's trying to come to terms with that loss and trying to maybe hang on to some of the things or figure out how to hang on to memories and people who meant a lot to him that he's lost. And so he kind of comes into play a little bit later in the story and kind of trying to think of the right word.
He plays a pretty integral part, I think.
He does.
Kind of pulling everything together. He's kind of in the center of that.
Yeah. He was a lot of fun too. So when I wrote He Should Have Told the Bees, Fern was kind of loosely inspired by my daughter. And so not that this character Peter is necessarily inspired by my son, but I asked for his input on that one. So he named him. And so he wanted to, and so he's like, gave me some ideas for his character. So he got to play a little bit of a role in that. So that was fun.
That is fun. Your kids, do they have much input? Do they ask you questions about what you're writing and what it's about? I mean, are they interested in that?
They are. They're definitely my biggest fans. Like anywhere I go, they want to tell everybody that mom is a writer. And I'm like this shy introvert that I'm like, oh no, don't call attention to me. But they are always cheering me on and asking, how's the book going? Or if I'm just like, "Ooh, it's been a rough day. I don't know where the story's going." They're always cheering me on, like, "Mom, you got this." They completely believe in me 100% all the time, which is really sweet and fun.
Yeah, I need them in my life.
Call them up and I
don't know what I'm doing.
They can be like, "It's fine. It'll be fine."
That's good. So anything else about the book that you want people to know? One thing that I always like to ask too about it is when I read it, when I close it, when I end it, what am I walking away with? Like, what do you want me to feel, to know, to ponder?
So even though I would say this book, to me, it feels like it has a little bit of a lighter tone than maybe some of my previous books. It's still, you're dealing with things like regret and things like that, which sounds really heavy, but I feel like the story is a little bit lighter in nature. And so there's a lot of focus on second chances and how to take risk on finding joy in life. And so I would say when you close it, I would hope that you feel a sense of hope for second chances, and you would feel a sense of peace and knowing that you don't have to fix everything, that sort of that patience in the process, that there's hope for a second chance no matter how things have unfolded.
What about your writing process? What does that look like?
Oh boy, it's kind of a mess. I wish that I was a plotter that had everything nicely outlined.
Wouldn't it be fun?
It seems like it to me because I love step-by-step plans, but that is not how the writing part of my brain works. It usually will stem from some little nugget or idea of a story, and then I start figuring out who the characters are at the beginning of the story, who I would like them to be at the end of the story, and thinking about ideas for what it would take for that change to happen. And so the plot kind of gets figured out along the way, which is, I'm the kind of person, I hate unknowns. I think most of us do.
Yes.
We like to know the end of the story, right? Whether it's our life or the book that we're writing. But I didn't at all. It was funny, through most of this book, I wasn't really sure how it's going to end it.
Okay, I was going to ask you, do you have the end in mind when you start?
Sometimes I do. With this one, I did my best to embrace my process, which is a little bit messy, and the layers slowly get worked into the story as I continue to work through it. But this one particularly, I did not know how the story was going to end. There are some twists and turns in the story that I didn't know. I didn't know if I'm like, "Ooh, am I going to leave it this way? Or wait, actually, is it going to be this way over here?" And there are characters who kind of popped up into the book towards the end that they were kind of surprises to me, because like, "Oh, what if I did this instead?" And so it was interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'm writing it, I'm like, okay, am I going to get to the end of writing this and it's actually going to like make sense?
I feel that. I feel that right now. Trying to finish my book I'm working on. Like I'm so close to the end. It's like, what's going to happen?
It's like, how do I
tie this thing up? Yeah.
Oh yeah, and definitely when you get towards those ends, it's like, okay, I have this much runway.
Exactly.
I was like, maybe I should just go back to the beginning and rewrite this whole descent.
Yeah, I'm kind of at the process of just go back and read through it and see, okay, if something really clicks,
Yeah.
oh, I brought that up and I totally forgot about that. Yeah. I just told a critique partner this week, whatever I write from this point forward, I've got to go back then and delete that many words because I'm at the point where I need to stop. But
but
you're not there's still more story.
Oh, it's such a struggle.
It is. I had no idea. Did you know going into this that it was going to be
to write the end
so
of the
difficult?
Story? Oh man, no, definitely not. I probably wouldn't have ever started if I did.
I'm not sure if I would have either. And every time I think about saying, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't belong doing this, like I have no ability, all these things, I think about quitting. And then I think, gosh, I've already invested so much,
right?
I got to see it through.
Yeah, sometimes I'll look at my husband like, this might be the last one. I don't think I'm gonna write another one. He'll just look at me like, sure, right? He's like, you put that book down that you're working on for just a little bit of time and you're gonna pick it back up again. I know you will.
Yeah.
But it's tough. Yeah,
it's definitely not easy. I had no idea. So
how much is involved?
Now that I've been like in this world a little bit for the past 5 years or so, I'm always telling people every chance I get. So I'm going to tell you all here, authors put their heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into these books that you have in your hands. So don't take it lightly and don't take it for granted. There is so much that goes into these books, the writing, the editing, and the critiquing, the rejections, and trying to get it published. And so once it's out there, once you've jumped all those hurdles and authors jumped all those hurdles and it's in your hands, enjoy it. And then please leave reviews. Please leave reviews. They are so important. And I had no idea. I have been an avid reader since I could read.
Yeah.
And I had never thought about leaving a book review.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, does that actually matter?
I was like, I read the book, that was good. And then I put it aside. I go to the next one. And I had no idea until I got into this, how important reviews are. So please read Amanda's books. And you're going to love them. So it's not even going to be, if you like it, leave a review. So leave a review. So as we get ready to wrap up here, let's just kind of let everybody know, if they don't, your books. So the first book was The Edge of Belonging. So tell us a quick little snippet about this book.
So this one is about a homeless man who finds an abandoned baby. And so when he finds her for the first time in his life, he feels a sense of connection, but he's obsessively independent, lives this hermit's life. But when he meets this baby, his life kind of gets pulled into this cast of characters that try their best to prove to him that he really is worthy of love.
It's a great book. It's also a Christie Award winner, right?
It is.
It wrote one, was it 2 Christies?
First novel and book of the year.
Okay. So get your hands on this if you haven't already. That's the first one. And then I think the second book was this one, right?
Yes.
The Secret Keepers of Old Depot Grocery. I love this book so much. This is one that my summer book club read, and Amanda joined us on our Facebook group for that. So a little bit about this one.
So this story is about 3 generations of women whose life has kind of revolved around this family-owned grocery store for various reasons. And the youngest of the trio moves back to the small town, hoping to resurrect her long-held dream of just helping run the family store. But when she arrives back, it looks like the store is going to close. And when the store starts the process of figuring out what's going to happen with it, a lot of secrets from the past come to light. And all 3 of these women, this grandmother, mother, and daughter, find out they've all been keeping secrets from each other, and they view each other in a certain light. Because of the secrets they kept. And so as they start to come to the surface, they have to reevaluate the people that they thought they knew and loved.
I think one of the things I love most about this book is that intergenerational story thread there of just these different generations and how they interact with each other. And
I had a lot of fun writing. So the characters, you meet them at all different ages and stages in their life as the story's woven together. So it was really fun,
Yeah.
like thinking about who these characters would have been at different points in their lives.
yeah, it's very well done. That's why I definitely recommend that one. And then the bees, he should have told the bees. Yeah, so this one is kind of a personal to you because you're a beekeeper.
I am.
So you have lots of experience. So you don't have to really go out a lot and research about the bee thing because you're doing it.
I am doing it, trying to anyway. I'm
Yeah.
not a professional like my character Beck. She is like got the full bee yard going. I'm more of a hobby beekeeper. But this one is about two young women whose lives are kind of thrown together when they're named on one man's trust. One of the young women, Beck knows exactly why she was named on the trust because she's kept bees alongside her father her entire life. And this is the farm she was raised on. The other young woman is a complete stranger, has no idea why she was named on this trust. And as their lives are kind of thrown together, both women have to kind of wrestle with why it is they've been thrown together and work through some childhood trauma that was kind of the result of this separation in their life.
Also another excellent story. And I forgot to mention too, the Secret Keepers. I think that also won 2 Christies, right?
Yeah. General fiction and book of the year.
Okay, and this one, has it won awards too?
It is a Carol finalist.
A Carol
really
finalist.
excited about that.
And they'll announce the winners at the conference.
I think
in
so.
September.
September, yeah.
Yeah. So like every book so far has won an award and well-deserved, I will say well-deserved awards. And I have no doubt that Between the Sound and Sea is going to do great too. And whatever, I'm sure you're working on something.
I am. It gets turned in about a month from now. So yeah.
Any sneak peek you can share?
I can tell you the title.
Okay.
So it's called The Bitter End Birding Society.
The Bitter End Birding
Society. Yeah. So it's about this ragtag group of bird watchers. They're very amateur bird watchers that are kind of thrown together. It's still, the story is in the process, still kind of figuring out what it really is about. But it's a lot about people who, it kind of has a found family vibe. Each one of these people have been through different circumstances and they sort of find each other out in nature and in God's creation. And there's a young woman who is kind of like, she's not from the area, but she's there for the summer. And she is kind of coping with some recent trauma in her life and expects to be spending the summer with her aunt, helping her sell her house. But that is not at all how her summer goes. There's a little bit of comedy, a little bit of tragedy, and everything in between in this story. But it's a lot of fun.
And did you say it's due next month?
It's due in a month. Yeah.
I would be so panicked.
I am a little bit, but also trying to embrace the process. It's finished, but I'm, trying to make it look nice.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But as far as explaining what it's about, as you're working through those edits and fine tuning how to explain what this 85,000 words is actually boiling it down to.
A sentence or two.
Yeah. That's still in process.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for meeting with me, especially when you're on a deadline. You've got a lot to do and kids, and at least they're not homeschooling right now, right?
Right. Summer break.
Yeah.
Being wild right now.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. So we're also doing a giveaway for Between the Sound and Sea. I don't have that in front of me. I can't remember exactly. It's going to be, I think, maybe a paperback to a U.S. resident, I believe is what the giveaway is. All right, so be sure you comment, scroll all the way down. You got to keep scrolling to get to the comment section and leave your comment and get in that giveaway chance for Amanda's new book, Between the Sound and Sea. And if you don't win, you're going to want to grab your copy anyway. All the book dealers, I know a lot of time, is it Baker? Do you go through Baker sometimes? They give a 40% off with the
when it's on
free shipping.
Yeah, when it's on pre-order, it's 40% off and free shipping. And then after it releases, I think it's still 30% off.
Right. So they have a good deal, better than Amazon.
Yes, much better.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll see you around. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Let me find that end button here.